So after you have the chromatography paper strips, you will interpret the information. So you're going to wait until they dry completely, and from this point forward you can use any writing instrument. You can use a pencil, you can use a pen, because now you're no longer testing those samples. So the first you're going to do is choose one strip to look at, and you're going to see what happened. So the color spot either moved from the starting line, or it moved a little bit, or it moved a lot, or it moved all the way to the finish line with, and then even beyond with the mobile phase. So look for an individual color spot, and you're going to draw a circle around it. Okay. So again, the spots might be spread out, and there might be more than one spot because there's more than one component, and you're going to draw this circle, and that's a qualitative process. So then in that circle, you're going to decide the approximate middle of the circle, okay? And put a plus sign in that center, the approximate middle. And again, that's going to be qualitative, what you decide is the middle of the circle that you drew, that you decided. So the distance you're going to measure, that's called the D value. This is the distance that the spot traveled. This distance is from the starting line. Okay, this is from the starting line to the plus sign. All right, and that's called the D value, and this is going to be measured for each spot. So for each individual spot. And so each individual color spot, if it's broken out into different components, then you're going to have individual circles and individual colors to mark on your lab report. For each chromatography paper strip, you're also going to have what's called the F value. Remember, that's the distance that the solvent front reached. So that's the water. So the F value is the distance that the water traveled. And that is going to be very likely, and for all of my examples, past that 8.50 centimeters finish line. So you're either going to look for the water, or you're going to look for the furthest point that the ink colors go. So let's first talk about the F value. So the F value is the distance that the solvent front traveled. So for this yellow strip, this one's still wet. It hasn't dried off yet, so you can see that this is the water mark. This has traveled above that finish line that I marked, and this is what you would measure for the F value. This would be the distance from here, the starting point, to the furthest point that the mobile phase traveled. So that's the F value. So you'd measure this using the centimeters of your ruler. This would be the F value. So for an individual D value, for instance, let's look at red. You're putting a circle around the color spot, and then draw a plus sign in the middle. Okay. Now this is qualitative. Like some of you might have said, well, did I actually have to draw it all the way around there? No. Some of you might have said, I'll draw this in green. Okay, well, I'm only going to draw it around here. Okay, then your plus sign's going to be there. All right. So the distance that any D value, any individual color spot has traveled, this will be from the starting line to the middle of that plus sign. That's what you're going to measure using the centimeters of your ruler. Okay, so for some of these where you cannot see the water, the F value is the furthest distance of the color. So for turquoise or purple or black or red or even this green, the furthest that any of these has traveled will be the F value, and that again is going to be from the starting line to the furthest that the color has traveled. Okay, that's of course different from any individual color spot. So for instance, purple we'll look at has two individual color spots, this pinkish and this purple, which is kind of spread out, very spread out actually. And so I'm going to draw two circles for two different individual color spots. So this is going to be a plus sign in the middle, and a plus sign in the middle. And then to measure the D values, there are going to be 2 D values for that purple. There's going to be measuring from the starting line to this plus sign, and then the starting line to that plus sign. So for these that have more than one color, you're going to have more than one circle, more than one plus sign, more than one D value.